Welcome to a brand new video series. These will be released on Wednesdays to coincide with our Tech Wednesday videos. The goal of this is to bring on different people from the industry, from technology to engineering, you name it, and we're going to do a deep dive with these people to explain various topics. And there's also going to be some change in formatting. We're going to include some integrations and sponsorships to be able to fund the growth of what we're trying to achieve on this channel in the long term, which I'm going to briefly cover. At the end of this video, I'm also going to be talking with Jack on one of our first topics, and that is what we have learned over the course of almost 10 years of doing this and 5 years full time. So let's get started. It's not a big surprise whenever you start a job, school, or a new hobby, there's going to be cash outlay for that. You know, that's the fine print of doing things. If you're into cars, you know there's nothing that burns money faster, or like audio video equipment, and we're right in the middle of that. So for us, spinning up this new content series for Wednesdays or Tech Wednesday videos, where we're going to be interviewing industry professionals, engineers that have spent their careers doing this work and trying to help them explain how they got there, how they're doing their job, and how things work is really important to me. It's something I've wanted to do to augment just the car videos. And we're also going to be talking to different brands and traveling to talk to different companies that really focus on this. And my hope is to help younger people that are trying to figure out what to do with their career learn about this thing learn about things before they get into it, or industry professionals or other people that are really passionate about trying to figure out how things work in the world around them beyond the surface level thing. There's enough like short form, really quick, right in your face content. I don't want to do that, otherwise I wouldn't continue doing this. But the other problem with spinning up something like this is the expenditure. That it costs a lot of money for new equipment and all of that. And as we're doing remote interviews and investing in that, we do not sell anything here. Like, we're literally not, we've never set out to sell anything or have a store. So the way you generate income is making videos through ad revenue or integrations or brand sponsorships. And in this series, I will include brand sponsorships or integrations that will help us get to the next place of, for example, getting a desk or certain equipment that we need, or help with travel, things like that that are really important. But the products that we're going to feature on here are a direct result of us using them and potentially raising brand awareness for the viewers of it. It's nothing more than that. In the case of this video, as we explain what we're going to do and why we're doing it with this new content, we did a video about our best cars of the year where we had our trophies, and a lot of the comments centered around like the fact that my desk, my IKEA desk I was using, was warped in the middle, and it was kind of an ongoing joke. And I thought to myself, like, I've been at a desk for like 25 years, either in corporate America or in my own desk. In the past like 5 years, I've spent thousands of dollars on different chairs, different ergonomic setups, and things that I put in my office space because I live at my desk half my life, and it gets very uncomfortable the older you get, slumped over, sitting there. If you've done it, you know it. After that video where I had my desk, FlexiSpot reached out to us to do an integration, and they're an office furniture manufacturer. They make desks, and they're kind of all over the internet. You see them in different integrations for different other YouTube channels. So I started looking, and I wanted a larger desk because I'm going to have Jack here, and the dude's a gorilla, and he just takes up more space to exert dominance half the time. But I need room for big 40-plus inch, ultra-wide displays, cameras, and my near-field monitors for listening. So I needed a big workstation for that. So when I went to their site, I spec'd out their premium standing desk E7 Pro with cable management because I could get a large bamboo tabletop that's over 70 inches long. And what I really wanted was something that I didn't have to mess with, literally, because I hate putting things together. And I think you'll know this if you've ever bought IKEA furniture or Amazon furniture, Walmart, whatever, to save money. When you open it up, the instructions look like it was written by a 5-year-old that's been retranslated. And it's a horrible experience. I've done it enough where things don't go together right. So when I opened this up, I was really looking at that, from weld quality to the powder coating on the material, the way cable management worked. So this was important to me. And as I took my time putting it together, making sure it went together right, there was really no fuss other than me taking my time. It was pretty easy aside from the weight of it. It's really heavy when you get the electronic or the motorized raising and lower tabletop. Everything is very heavy duty. But as I put it together, I really appreciated the quality. Like, there's nothing that cross-threaded, all the holes lined up. Everything was really sturdy and felt good. Something that I'm probably going to use for 5 years easily and not come apart. And as it was fully assembled, I was really surprised at the adjustability of the height. I mean, I have the lift behind me and you can just see how high it goes up. And this makes it great for doing different product videos. And when we're gonna showcase certain parts of cars and electronics, I have a real tabletop to use now that I'm not gonna be fighting with. It's just like details like including a multi-tool like this, even though I still use my drill. Like there is attention to detail, and the price, to be fair, is not all that crazy when you look at the size of it versus some of the more mainstream desks that you get for cheap. So I think really for us, it's about using in these integrations and working with brands that are willing to support us get to these next places that we want to get without spending a ton of money to do it, and bringing value to people that are watching and to understand, you know, there are all these little details behind it that if you're looking, like in this case, if you're looking for a desk, it's pretty good, honestly. I can't ask for anything more for the price. Or if you want to learn about new products, we're going to be integrating them more along with all these technical things. But we're going to go talk with Jack. We're going to talk about some of the future of these videos so you understand better of what we're trying to do.
We're pulling up to a red light, Mark, and we're doing what we always do, drive around pointlessly in Midwestern towns and talk about cars. Now, I know this video is serving as an intro to our new series we're starting, where we're going to start interviewing functional experts in the field and hear about their own philosophies and how they got there. But I thought it would be a good time to talk about us. We're personally not very personal in our videos, right? We don't like talking about ourselves because that's not why people are watching, right? It's not about us, it's about the product, about the people involved. But I do want to talk about how our own opinions have changed doing this and how our views on automobiles and how the industry have shifted. You and I have been doing this together full time for like a little over 4.5 years at least together.
Yeah.
We've had some really amazing opportunities to talk to senior leadership, senior engineers, get embedded in teams and learn everything they've done over a series of years to make a certain product. I guess let's start sort of low level first. How have your opinions on what you value in automobiles changed? And this is something I've asked other people on the side, people like Matt Farah, Thomas James, Jacob and Yuri. They've all had their opinions evolve. I want to ask how yours have.
Well, I started doing the car video scene back in 2013. Like, if you can think about it, a long time ago. And that's when I started tampering with it. And I've seen, I think from the very first press car I did, which was a Buick LaCrosse. That was the very first one. I think that was circa 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So the big shock, I think, if you go back, let's just say to 2015, is how much social media has changed. It's essentially a brand new world that we live in. You had internet, you had all these other things that had spun up, but social media really was not what it is today. And I think it has changed a lot in terms of perception. I think people's opinions have changed quite a bit because of it. The culture of what cars are and should be have changed quite a bit. And we joked around, I made videos with Scott, and we always made fun of like, okay, every car is gonna have a big screen and all these like gimmicky things, but I didn't think it would get to the level that it is at, where we've gotten cars that are literally reinventing the wheel. Like, things that just shouldn't be on cars are now there. The prices have gone up to an unbelievable level from where they used to be, way outpacing inflation. And I think that's what's really caught me off guard in terms of what's changed and what I feel has changed, is the car is now just an excuse for companies to try to pad them full of things that people really don't need in order to get more money. And I don't think the cars have gotten a whole lot better.
So that's how you feel about the industry, but how have you personally felt about your connection with cars? Obviously, people are watching our videos, or
it's far less. I mean, the straight answer is like, what excited me about cars no longer exists. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, everything's horrible. That's not what it's about. It's just what I loved about cars is on the decline. And it's on the decline because the values and what's being pushed in culture, economy, and auto manufacturers and regulations, we have this really strange shift away from focusing on the long term, and that's changing cars, but the long term is very short-sighted in terms of what's going into cars. So I've lost my level of passion for the car as a transportation device to bring you freedom, because I feel like they've become a lot more of a burden.
How so?
Just money. you know, like cost of ownership. They're still depreciating assets, all of them. You're not going to buy a normal car and be like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to save, I'm going to keep my money here. You're throwing away money, and the problem is everything's gotten so much more expensive that you're throwing away a lot more money, way more than you used to. And you know, when you make a purchase of a car for a normal person, for me, I think, well, I hate going into something thinking, what's the least of the worst I can do here? And instead of buying something because you really want to, you're buying something of a risk mitigation type thing.
I agree, and I disagree with you. The thing I'm going to disagree with you on is the vast majority of cars, regular people cars, we're talking RAV4s, Civics, Corollas, blah, 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 are the best they've ever been.
You think so?
You get into a CR-V today, a brand new CR-V, you get into a CR-V from 10 years ago. What's a better experience? You get into a Civic today from a Civic 15 years ago. What's a better experience?
I would agree with you in a certain part of it. I think where I will agree is they're safer. You know, you got knee airbags, you got all this crazy stuff. They're quieter, they're more refined. But now these cars are far more expensive. They're way more complicated. You have the refinement, but the buy-in price and the potential to keep them longer term is a lot more risky than it used to be.
There's the economic element, and I'm not going to argue too much with you on that. The problem is, and this is not an us problem, there's nothing I can do about it or tell manufacturers or anything about it. With inflation and the way money works, even though the technical dollar value is the same, like a Civic Si today is the same amount of money with inflation as it was in like 2001 or 2002. Problem was the earning rate of people has not increased with inflation.
Yeah.
The class of people from an economic perspective who buy cars like that have seen their wages technically decrease with inflation, not increase. If you're in that under $100,000 earning bracket, your buying power is less than it was with inflation 20 years ago. But that's a different problem. So your problem now with modern cars is they're more disposable, I guess?
They're more disposable. That you've thrown way more complication at them, way more cost, and everything is just, they're not, things currently are not really, the mindset is not, let's make this to last a long period of time. I get it in electronics, right? Because you want to flip them quickly. Appliances are cheap. I joked around with you. I found a TV at Walmart for like $57. $57 for a TV. It's hilarious, right? And at that point, I get it because you don't care anymore. You're just going to throw it away. It has zero value. It's a disposable economy of something. But cars are not to that level, right? Like, you can't buy shit. You can't find parts supply for all these weird things and all electronics in cars after 10 years. So it's different because I'm not buying a $57 throwaway thing. I'm buying a $50,000 throwaway thing, and that is a catastrophic effect on a family that doesn't have a lot of money, or somebody that just wants to keep something longer. It's just not like how it is. So it really curbs my excitement for the next thing. So I mean it's been disheartening for me more than anything.
So that's an argument about the industry, but your own personal enjoyment. Like I had this conversation with you and my girlfriend off camera. Cars that would have excited me in college don't excite me today.
Right.
The Corolla, as great as that car is, 10 years ago, if you talked to me, and this is prior to doing any of this, just regular Jack prior to doing YouTube or being in and out of cars, I would have really, really liked that car. I came from GTIs, and I loved hot hatches. And today, when I drive that car, I'm like, How have you changed your perspective? For me, I like cars that are more focused and more ridiculous than I used to. Right now, things that excite me are either incredibly focused and proficient, say like a crazy luxury car, or like a really good family car, or something absurd like a Lamborghini STO, a Z06, or like a Miata. That is a joyful car. What has changed for you?
I would agree. I think when I was younger, I had more of a aptitude for sacrificing based on having a fun to drive experience. A car like the GR Corolla, the 86, the S2000, those things, I would have just drove those around all day long because I just didn't care. I wanted to enjoy them. But I think, over time, that's kind of eroded away, and I really don't value that as much because I don't know what it is. It's we change with age, so I don't look forward to getting in there and driving something like that every day because
sitting in traffic.
There's just zero fun to be had. And as cars have gotten faster, which they have gotten insanely fast even in 10 years, you look at the horsepower numbers, the dawn of EVs where, if you told somebody that you could go 0 to 60 in 2 seconds or 0 to 100 in like 5 seconds
or less,
15 years ago, they would have been like, there's no way, how do you do that? So that dream of ownership for me of like, okay, I would love to have a GT3 or like an STO or a Lucid Sapphire, and then the reality seeps in is what joy is it actually going to bring you after you acquire it, other than the acquisition of having that cool car, because they're so unbelievably overkill for anything you're going to do in the real world aside from killing somebody, or going nuts. Again, who would have thought you would have a performance SUV, like a sports car SUV? It's counterintuitive, but for the daily commute that we're doing, it's a weird invention, but makes total sense once you have it.
Yeah, maybe you and I are different points in our life, and we've had this discussion in like some of our live streams. I don't have a full family unit like you have to deal with on the back end logistically. So I'm willing to put up with more in my day-to-day drive than you are. But yeah, I think that you have a valid point about some of the really special, ridiculous cars that A, cost as much of a house, and B, there's really nothing you can do with them.
Right.
Other than drive them like a complete lunatic, which, to be fair, I feel like most people buy those cars. People who buy really high-end sports cars buy them for one of 3 reasons. There's the flex element of it, which is nauseating. Mm-hmm. There's this is your dream car and it means something to you. Or the third one is you just really like, and they're not that clear cut, but third one is you love driving and you like the comedy behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole, to relate that back without getting too convoluted. With really high-end cars, there's not a lot you can do with them, I guess, once you get past all of that and you realize when you're sitting in traffic, what the fuck am I doing with a $40 million car?
Well, what's changed for you in the past 10? Clearly, you've changed as a person. That's the biggest one.
Yeah.
But in, 6 years of doing this, what do you see changing for the better and for the worse?
I think because we've learned how the sausage is made, and what I mean by that is we've learned how cars are made, you have a more cynical view than I have. I have a greater appreciation for the we're in.
Yeah.
I realize, my background's engineering, obviously, and I come from a family of engineers, but they're primarily on the consumer electronics side. So, I know how hard it is to develop a phone or a computer or a laptop. But with the car side of things, understanding all of the crap they go through and the difficulties surrounding development and the layers of government regulation, supply chain, and the sheer amount of passion or lack of it, my appreciation for all of this is greater, and I have more sympathy than I used to have for the OEMs. The joke that you and I have about like Reddit or just the internet is the general car enthusiast wants this a diesel wagon manual, which and for a long time I was that guy too. I'm like, oh, why isn't there X, Y, and Z car options here in the US? But now, because I deal with the business side so much, and A, getting our projects approved, but B, talking to all these people, I kind of understand why a lot of this stuff doesn't exist, and I have a greater appreciation for product teams that can, despite everything, make really compelling cars. I think that's what's changed for me. Like I understand your cynicism and the prices and everything, and some of the lack of involvement with these modern vehicles. I have a greater appreciation of the fact that these things even get built.
Yeah, I get that. I do feel the same way. It's a miracle that some of these cars get built and that it happens, because everything costs so much money to manufacture, and the amount of headcount you need, the resources. Even this thing, I started talking about with the price of cars. It's a double-edged sword, because I think as you move more into the EVs too, and we've said this before, like anybody can make an EV now, right? As long as you have manufacturing, they're all
BYD's coming, and
and once they figure out how to, like I was joking around about the $57 TV, once they figure out how to get those prices down to the maximum level of like low to turn every car into a microwave, And then obviously I'm not a huge Tesla fan, but at the same time, when you talk about BYD coming into Mexico and all this, and are they going to be able to make $20,000 EVs? I'm like, you have me rooting for Tesla. Like, you have me more rooting for that, so we don't turn cars into that $100 Chinese TV that is like low quality throwaway things. I really don't want that to happen to this industry, and I feel like that's just what's happening and what's going to happen, because that's the only path left forward with this stuff.
This is go the other direction to make everything highly cheap and even more disposable.
Yeah, I really, honestly, that's where it's going. This is the trajectory that these companies have set themselves on, because they're selling cars to appeal to that throwaway economy. And it's the race to the bottom. And the race to the bottom is high volume, cheap, affordable cars that are built very, very poorly, with no support, no customer service, because we've seen every other industry has followed this, with very few exceptions of like Apple, like these types of companies that lived and breathed on certain people follow quality, but a mass majority of the customer wants cheap food, they want cheap cars, they want cheap TVs, they want cheap electronics, they don't want to pay a lot. And most people around here, you can just see based on the cars, that all you have to do is look around and see the massive cars on the road. They're just a bunch of NPC machines. People don't care about them. So if you could tell them,
cost to own the fact that they exist.
Right. Like, they don't want to pay anything. So if you could tell them, oh, you could get a RAV4 for $10,000, they're not going to care where it's coming from, who's made it, And I think that's what I'm more worried about, and that's what's kind of like eroded away at me about my opinion of like the cars and being passionate about them. We're going to become like the niche, like we're already Dungeons and Dragons. It's just going to be worse.
So, with that uplifting view of where the industry is going, I think it's time for us to transition out of this video, and you're going to be hearing from people who actually know what they're talking about. Our goals, you're going to hear from chassis designers, suspension people, drivetrain people, safety cells, ADAS. Our goal in the next year of doing this is every couple weeks or every couple months you'll hear from a functional expert.
And that's really going to be the benefit to people watching this, and I said it kind of during that integration part of the video, this is what I'm passionate about at this point. It's not the product so much as it's about the people and the mentalities behind it, so we can learn and help people learn that there is a value to putting effort into things. And I think a lot of the people we're going to talk to really believe the same thing. It's just hard.
Yeah. All right, thanks for watching, guys.